What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 and the OnePlus Nord N20 5G. Now, as always, if you end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz IPS LCD display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 399, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the OnePlus Nord N20 5G, we're getting a 6.43-inch AMOLED display. This phone also has a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 409, and a 20:9 aspect ratio as well. So overall, both phones have really good displays here. So in general, if you're consuming a lot of content, whether you're doing stuff like reading or maybe you're watching videos, playing games, regardless, you will get a good experience with either display here. That being said though, each phone has a slight advantage over the other. On one hand, with the Moto G Stylus 5G at 6.6 inches versus again 6.43 with the OnePlus, the display is a little bit larger. So if you are someone who prefers a larger display, maybe you're doing stuff like reading, for example, where you want things to be a bit larger and easier to see, then in that case, the Motorola will have an advantage. But on the other hand, with an AMOLED display versus an IPS LCD, the display on the OnePlus is a bit brighter, the colors are a bit more rich and vibrant, and the viewing angles are a bit better too. So if you're maybe spending a lot of time outside, for example, where things are a bit brighter, then in that case, the OnePlus will be a bit easier to see. But again, in general, both phones do have really good displays, so you really won't go wrong either way. For storage, with the Moto G Stylus 5G, first of all, keep in mind, this phone in my hand is factory unlocked, and if you get it from a carrier, the storage could be different. But this one does have 256GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and with the OnePlus, we're getting 128GB with microSD card expansion as well. So again, remember, if you do want 256GB with the Moto G Stylus 5G, then chances are you're probably just gonna have to get it unlocked, because I believe from most carriers, it will only have 128. But either way, for the average user, I feel like both phones have plenty of storage, so no matter what, you're probably not going to go wrong here. But of course, if you do want more storage, maybe you're a bit more of a power user, and you're downloading lots of apps and games and stuff like that, then in that case, you could always get the unlocked version of the Moto G Stylus 5G. For security features, both phones have Face Unlock, and they both have fingerprint scanners too. With the Moto G Stylus 5G, it's right here on the power key, and with the OnePlus Nord N20 5G, it's in the display. But real quick, starting with the Motorola, let's try them out. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the OnePlus. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, both fingerprint scanners worked real well. No issues at all. And again, remember, both phones have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the Moto G Stylus 5G, up front, we get a 16-megapixel selfie camera, then on the back, we get a dual camera setup with a 50-megapixel main camera and an 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera that also doubles as a macro camera. And then for video, this phone can record 4K videos in the rear camera and then 1080p in the front. With the OnePlus, up front, we got another 16-megapixel selfie camera, then on the back, we get a triple camera setup with a 64-megapixel main camera, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a 2-megapixel depth sensing camera. And then for video, this phone does have a max recording quality of 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, so unfortunately no 4K here. So in general, when it comes to features, the Motorola does have an advantage here, because again, this phone does have an ultra-wide camera, whereas unfortunately, despite being a mid-range phone, the OnePlus doesn't. So if you want to get those wider angle photos, definitely keep this in mind. And also, again, the Motorola can record 4K videos, at least in the rear camera, so that is a nice thing too. To give you an idea of what these cameras can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the Moto G Stylus 5G. In general, for a mid-range phone, I do think the quality is really good. And for the average user, I feel like you're probably not going to need much more than this. Sure, some people who are really into mobile photography, or maybe you're coming from an older but higher end device like a Samsung Galaxy S10 for example, in that kind of situation you might have higher expectations, and if it's really more of a priority for you, you might want to spend a bit more and get something higher end. But again, for the average user, if you're just occasionally taking maybe Instagram photos, Snapchat stuff, sending things to friends and family, or maybe taking vacation photos for your own memories, for that kind of use, I feel like you're really not going to need much better than this. And again, it has plenty of different features like like an ultra wide camera, macro camera, 4K video recording, so for what it is, I do think the camera setup here is overall really good. And then here's some pictures taken with the OnePlus, and when it comes to which one is better between the two, the pictures are right here, so I'll let you decide that for yourself. But overall, I feel like it's the same kind of thing. The camera we get with this phone is going to be perfectly fine for most people's daily use. So if you are looking for an affordable phone that still does have a decently nice camera, you're not going to go wrong with this phone either. But again, remember this phone doesn't have an ultra wide camera, and it also can't record 4K videos. So if those features are important to you, then you might want to go with the Motorola instead. But again, overall for what they are, if you're really just taking regular pictures and you want good photo quality, but at the same time you don't need it to be top of the line, flagship level or anything like that, then either phone will get the job done here. Now for the RAM and processor, with the Moto G Stylus 5G, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 processor. With the OnePlus, this phone is also getting 6GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor. Now in general for mid-range phones, both devices here do have pretty good performance, but between the two, I will say the Moto G Stylus 5G is a bit faster. Not by a whole lot, but the difference is definitely still there. So while for what it is, the Snapdragon 695 is still a pretty good processor, and for basic daily activities like web browsing, social media, watching YouTube videos, or maybe playing a game or two, this phone will definitely get the job done. If you really do want the faster phone between the two, the Moto G Stylus 5G will still have an advantage. Now I ran a benchmark test here on each phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see here, the Motorola does have an advantage. Again, not really by an insane amount. It's not like comparing the OnePlus to like a Samsung Galaxy S21 FE for example, but it still definitely will make a difference. So again, if speed and overall performance are more important to you, maybe you're going to be on your phone a bit more doing slightly more demanding activities, then in that case, I would go with the Motorola. But again, don't forget, the OnePlus still does have pretty good performance for what it is, so for basic daily activities, it is still going to be good enough. Now for the batteries, with the Moto G Stylus 5G, we're getting a 5000 mAh battery that supports 20W fast charging, and with the OnePlus, we're getting a 4500 mAh battery that supports 33W fast charging. So in general, both phones have pretty good batteries, but I would definitely say the Moto G Stylus 5G has a slightly better battery here, because a 5000 mAh battery of course is going to get significantly better battery life. Not that the OnePlus is really that bad, but if you're in a situation where you're not always around a charger, but you still have to use your phone all day, so you really want to maximize battery life. In that case, the Moto G Stylus again will have an advantage, but maybe you are around a charger for a decent amount of time, especially considering the fast charging we're getting here. The OnePlus is still not going to be that bad. For the software, the Moto G Stylus 5G does have Android 13, whereas unfortunately with the OnePlus, we are only getting Android 12. Now, to be fair, this phone originally had Android 11, so at least it updated from that, but since Android 13 has been out for quite a while now, I don't imagine this phone's actually gonna get it. Now, it might, but considering the N30 5G is out now, I wouldn't really count on it. In addition to this, keep in mind even though the Moto G Stylus 5G does at least have Android 13, and it could possibly get Android 14 in the future, I don't know when that's actually going to happen, so if long-term software support is really important to you, I would get a different phone altogether. But if you do want the newer software between the two, the Moto G Stylus 5G will have an advantage. When it comes to other features, both phones have NFC, so if you like to use tap and pay, you won't have to worry about that with either phone. And then of course, as the name suggests, the Moto G Stylus 5G does actually have a stylus, so if you do want a phone that has a stylus that's not the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, then aside from the TCL Stylus 5G, which I personally don't think is as good as this is really one of your only options. So definitely keep this in mind. And really, in my experience, the stylus here is pretty good. I mean, it's not the best, but for simple stuff like taking notes and navigating through your display and even playing games and stuff, it does get the job done. So yeah, if you're really looking for this feature and you don't want to spend $1,400 on a flagship phone, then I feel like for most people you really won't be disappointed here. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In general, in pretty much every way, I would definitely say the Moto G Stylus 5G is the better device here. Remember, if you get this phone unlocked, you will get double the storage at 256GB versus again 128 with the OnePlus, which granted is really not that bad. For that matter, I have 128GB on my personal phone and I've never once come close to filling it up. But if you really do want a ton of storage, with the Moto G Stylus 5G you can get it. The display is also a little bit larger, although again the OnePlus does have an AMOLED display display, which does give it a bit more of an advantage. Despite the photo quality on the cameras being pretty similar, the Moto G Stylus 5G has more features, with an ultra-wide camera and 4K video recording. It's also faster, it has a larger battery, again of course it does have a stylus, and it has a newer version of Android. So in general, despite the OnePlus being a pretty good phone for what it is, I feel like overall, if you really want to maximize the value and features you're getting for the money, I would definitely go with the Moto G Stylus 5G. But this concludes my comparison between the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 and the OnePlus Nord N20 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipus Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.